Good afternoon, all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for being here. Matt O'Brien, Fox, Joel Ramirez is in the chat. Thank you for being here as well. You know, you're always here supporting, the Sal Greco Show. So, folks, if you can right now, please hit the like, share, subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Rumble, please hit the like button, hit the Rumble button as well. And if you're watching on X right now, streaming all over the world, please hit that like button and share this out to all your friends in the low information bubble. Also, if you can, please go to salgreco.com. If you can, hit the support button, because as you know, we are fighting multiple lawsuits against the city. We are, I'm being harassed by the police department from the minute I was terminated, prior to that, all the way till the end. So by you guys supporting me, it means a lot. It's done a lot. And I'm seeing people, be generous enough to, contribute anything to this cause, because it's cost me everything. Remember, I don't have a post certificate. It's very hard to work when you don't have a post certificate and you're labeled something that you're not by the police department. So whatever you guys could do has really, it's really touched my heart too, that people out there doing it. And also, if you want to read and see what I'm posting, you could go to my Substack at the Sal Greco. And the Substack, I write articles. I post some things also that maybe if you didn't catch it on YouTube, if you didn't catch it on Rumble, if you don't catch it on X, you could go to Substack and you could see it there. So, we could do it. You could really help me out with that if you can, go to my Substack and read my articles and stuff that I put up there. Now, before anything else, I was going to show you something that happened a couple of days ago. So let's play the first video in this Mamdani word salad special. So at a recent Albany committee hearing, New York Republican State Senator Steve Chan asked New York City Zohran Mamdani some pertinent questions. Let's hear what he had to say.
Let's get local.
Let's do it.
The garbage can mandate. A lot of people pay for their garbage cans and didn't get it. Where are they?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
A lot of people pay for their garbage cans through the city's website, bought it, and didn't get it. Where are these garbage cans?
This is one of the issues that we're going to be following up on. I'm also just going to introduce and pass it over to my Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, Jamila Edwards. Before I do, I also do
Did
have
the company
to say,
take off of the money? Is that what happened?
Before I pass it over, I do also have to say that you're also well known for having incredible TikToks, and I have to appreciate that.
Thank you very much. All right.
Good morning, Senator. We'll follow up with this on you with DSNY. It's an ongoing issue across the city, and so there are a couple of folks that we've been coordinating with on this issue. So I'll follow up with you.
Okay, that's good enough. Let's talk about the next question. Overnight in my neighborhood, Bath Beach, Gravesend, Bensonhurst, 30 cars get their airbags stolen over a span of 2 precincts. What are you going to do about that?
Can you say the
30 cars overnight in my district last night get their airbags stolen.
30 cars
windows.
last night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that is unacceptable. That is something that we will follow up on. Thank you for flagging that for us.
Okay.
Once again, learning on the job and continuing with those word salads. Yeah. Watching that, and I watched a lot. There's a lot from there. This was a budget hearing, proposed budget for New York State. So the mayor, he's there because, they want to ask him about the budget and all this things he wanted. There's a couple of good questions that were asked and different senators and assemblymen. But so that is State Senator Chan. Senator Chan represents Kings County, and he asked he went right to it. This guy wasn't holding back. And the questions he asked, the next question was about food in the school system. and he wasn't even prepared for that, about what he thought. It's like, so obviously when the mayor of New York City is answering questions, he likes to do this old filibuster routine. It's really, you know, I don't know. It's so that was, I think, the highlight of the entire, we'll say, proceeding, with Mamdani giving testimony and asking, you know, proposal. But again, the word salads continue. Whenever he's asked anything, he's usually, you know, moving around. Oh, so yeah. Shout out to Andre Jackson right now. Right here, I said he gave $10 to the Sal Greco Show. Thank you very much. That's plenty of cafecito. He says, Sal, turn off the prices right and let's go. Yeah. Yeah, it is. You know, I'm doing my best. So now I'm going to get, well, before that, folks, if you're going to, you know, want to join a real organization, if you're an Italian American, you live out here in South Florida, well, you can live anywhere, but if you're in South Florida, IACRL.org, right there, March 11th, the Florida chapter kicks off at Casa Calabria. We're going to have a beautiful event. We're going to honor Roger Stone, and yes, Roger Stone is Sicilian. So what I want is, if you can contribute by joining and then coming to the event. So you could also join IACRL.org and then also then come to the event, which is going to have a lot of different people there. So if you can, IACRL.org. Then also, I don't get my news from the major outlets because it's always biased. So I use Free Spoke. So check that out. I know you surf the internet and you search for things on a search engine and you don't get what you're looking for. Well, I have a solution for you, and that's Free Spoke. Free Spoke is a search engine that does everything without all the restrictions and all the censorship, and there's no porn ads. Free Spoke is about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels media bias, no intrusions or data leaks. No porn ads, like I said, unlimited, unbiased AI. Also, deep dive podcasting. You can look it up. Go to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Download the app. You could also use the same link to get 35% off the premium subscription, which would be well worth it. Try it out. freespoke.app.link/Greco. And there you have it, folks. You go to Free Spoke, uses code Greco35. Get your 35% discount. Now, I don't know what's going on here. Apparently, YouTube is wrong, but I will put this in the chat as we speak. You could still watch this program by going to right here on Rumble. That is the link right there. I don't understand what's going on, why YouTube is showing up as if it's on, but what can I say? You know, this is technology, and we go through all these different I know it says it looks like the stream was deleted. It wasn't. I have no idea why this is going on. Let me try to fix this as we speak. I don't know what's going on. This is what happens with live television, folks. This shouldn't have happened. I don't know what happened. Yeah, it just doesn't want to show up on YouTube. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Well, we're gonna have to wing it, I guess, just using Rumble. Sorry, Rumble and X. Next up, let me show you the next video and the next topic we have, which was this whole Kevin Taylor incident. So let's put this up on the screen. Retired Inspector Kevin Taylor, the recently indicted Kevin Taylor, apparently spent $50,000 in order to have Ashanti perform at his school division party for the NYPD on December 2nd, 2023 at Pier 61. This calls for an audit of the school safety division and of the police foundation, which there may or may not be hands in the cookie jar. On top of that, Chief Holley apparently wants a luxury office at housing in PSA 6, where apparently he threw out detectives, lieutenants, captains, and is creating a big office just for himself. Meanwhile, the residents of Harlem and NYCHA can't even get their heat to work. Troubling times in New York City, and especially in the New York City Police Department under this leadership of the soccer mom. Listen, there's a lot there. First of all, you saw a video. There's a whole thing with Kevin Taylor, who's a former inspector now, is being indicted and going through a whole case. And you saw the whole part with Chief Holley. And I can tell you a lot about what's going on with Chief Holley. So, and folks, I see you in the chat. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. I'll try to correct that. It's not letting me put anything up on YouTube. I'm sorry. So you got to switch it over to Rumble for now. And also, if you can, I'm on X. So, and then when the broadcast is over, I'll put it up on YouTube, if anything. But I have no idea what's going on there. Yeah, it is what it is. It's modern technology. So without any further ado, let's have the co-host, the producer, the wingman, our man, Jack. Welcome to the stage to discuss so much. And before anything, Jack, how was your weekend and how you've been?
Oh, I had a fantastic weekend, but unfortunately, this is the typical Monday morning blues, right? You think everything's working fine. We have the stream all set, and then all of a sudden we try and go live only to find out that YouTube actually isn't collaborating with us right now. So we've tried to restart the stream a couple of times on here manually on StreamYard to no avail. We'll continue to try throughout the show, but unfortunately, we're going to ask everyone to watch today's program on Rumble or on X.
Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. I have no idea what just happened on YouTube, but it's just technology, you know. Thanks for everyone who is switching over to Rumble as we speak, or X. So, Jack, you said you knew some information. You have a whole, I guess, outlook, a different outlook than what we've been hearing about the Kevin Taylor indictment. So, what do you have for us, Jack?
Yeah, we'll get more into the Taylor indictment, the consequences, the NYPD fallout from it. But as it pertains to one of the partners who was involved with Kevin Taylor, Gino Rofaro, the CEO of SaferWatch. And for those of you watching who are unfamiliar with the app SaferWatch, pretty much it allows private citizens to inform law enforcement officials when there's an issue or a time-sensitive emergency. So pretty much Rofaro partnered with Kevin Taylor to have SaferWatch put in New York City schools for it to be used by school safety agents and teachers alike. But what a lot of people don't know about Rofaro is that he's very politically connected to the point where he recently donated $10,000 to Broward County Sheriff Gregory Tony, and Tony in turn made a video, a testimonial for Rofaro and SaferWatch. And unfortunately, Tony wasn't the only person that Rofaro was involved with recently. He also was brushing shoulders with Florida gubernatorial candidate Byron Donalds 3 weeks ago at Mar-a-Lago. So this is someone who's very connected within the political ecosystem, and it's going to be interesting to see if he's prosecuted given the power he has in this line of work. And essentially, he's kind of like the CEO and the bureaucratic crossing guards standing at the intersection of law enforcement and technology right now. He wields a very large amount of power in this area, and I don't know if anyone's going to really step in and convict him given the control he has.
Yeah, this is an angle I didn't know about. It's because we're looking at it from usually the, Kevin Taylor and NYPD. Rafael, though, this guy, Rafael, nobody's talking about his connections to the Florida, Republican Party and everyone else there. So this, looking at it from this point of view, this is a guy who obviously wants to, influence certain people, try to get his way. So he is trying, obviously, with Kevin Taylor, he was looking to get his company entrenched with the Safer Watch. You had the panic button thing, and the indictment only covers one aspect. It doesn't cover everything else. So there's going to be more coming off of that. Plus, as you could tell, there was a big party they threw where in the indictment it mentions $150,000 being thrown around for it. Now, I had put that I had found out that allegedly Mr. Taylor spent $50,000 just to have Ashanti there. So if you watch this video, I mean, he's basically filming himself and is very, it's like he's filming his own demise. It's almost ridiculous that you got to understand. This is at Pier 61, and we're watching this, and it's like, how is this going on? How is this being allowed? Where does the money come from? Obviously, you have school safety division in itself, right? That should be audited. The money being used there. We have the audit should be happening in the police foundation fund where people have allegedly been putting their fingers in, their sticky fingers. So, this has been a long drawn out process, but Kevin Taylor is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. They're not even scratching the surface. He's not even close to being the tip of the iceberg, actually. So, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are seeing Ashanti, who's she's on 50K for that.
50K for that one performance of taxpayer money too. But my biggest question here with Taylor is look how much money this guy was getting paid. He made $240,000 almost in 2024, $235 in 2025, $219 in 2023. So when you factor in the bribes that he was getting from Safer Watch and the kickbacks he was receiving, which also included lavish vacations and other various nice things, seats to sporting events, all that stuff, the valuation of his year-to-year salary was about $300,000, and that includes money that wasn't being taxed and gifts which weren't even accounted for on his tax return. So, I mean, he was getting a lot from all of this, and there needs to be better guardrails in play and better supervision, because why are you outsourcing all of your safety to a third-party company in Florida that's completely unfamiliar with what's going on in New York City? I get that their model could be applicable for Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Los Angeles, and they have a very large set of safety protocols which they can use in various municipalities. But the point here, Sal, is this was a shady business relationship from the very beginning. There was very little supervision. Safer Watch was actually founded, reactionarily speaking, in reaction to the shooting which took place in Parkland to try and prevent another massacre from happening again. So the needs of Safer Watch are very different, and it was a very shady relationship from the very beginning. You wonder why no one was pressing Taylor earlier on, because as records indicate, as the relationship progressed, Taylor was saying we're going to have to be a little more discreet about this. So he could feel the heat coming too.
Yeah. And also, there's a lot more to this issue. The part with this party, just so people know, Eric Adams and his crew were at this very party. Okay. There's footage of all kinds of stuff. So I want you to realize that there's going to be more to come out from just this Kevin Taylor part. I know people focusing on the indictment. They're leaving out certain parts of what really happened. So I want people to realize that. You could go back and look at that. So we'll be covering this. There's going to be more to come in regards to the party. Now, with the rest of the stuff, the actual indictment, though, Jack mentions individual one, individual two. Individual one sounds like Tim Pearson. Tim Pearson was the guy in charge of the contracts. I'm not saying he's in his indictment, but obviously there's other people that were in the indictment that are not showing up. So Tim Pearson's going to probably be one of them. There might be other people. We know the banks.
Jeffrey Madry, it seems like, was involved too, because he was the chief of department at the time all of these contracts were being signed.
Yeah. So I feel like there's going to be more of the usual suspects that we always have referenced in the past involved in this. So be on the lookout for the Kevin Taylor issues, and yeah, Safer Watch and all of that. Now,
none of the people who really investigated this case either uncovered all of the details until they started investigating Adams back in 2024. And in reading the prosecution and the judgment, I couldn't help but think about how lucky Adams is, because you have Mohammed Bahi, who was prosecuted for funneling in straw donor money. Then you have Kevin Taylor, who was taking bribes from Safer Watch. Both of them, it seems like, are going to have their day in court. Meanwhile, Eric Adams is running around as a free man, creating all of these crypto coins, pretty much doing whatever he wants. And he continues to skate above the law while all of his cronies are indicted and face the consequences for their actions. So, I mean, it's the prototypical example of rules for thee don't apply to me.
Exactly. Now, the second part of the original video was Chief Holley. Chief Holley, just so people understand, he's a polarizing figure, and that many of the detectives don't like him for whatever the reason is. But he has created a office, like you have to see the video I put up. In the old PSA 6, he has created like almost like a penthouse feel, where he wants this whole part where it was detectives and lieutenants, and see, this is a hallway. This is all his office now. All this. This is going to be his office. So
is that an office or an apartment?
It's an office. It was the original offices of a captain, a lieutenant, you know, the squad. It's all one floor now for him. Now, what I've been able to get some information here, we're going to say again through sources, is that Chief Holley's backer, we'll say the person that is backing him, is a name that we have mentioned on the show in the past, who is also a close advisor to Mr. Mamdani, and that's Rodney Harrison. Rodney Harrison is the guy behind pulling Holley. Rodney Harrison is the one that is making the move to now become the next police commissioner. He's making that move behind the scenes. I told you there was another person. That person's still around. It's very much in the air who takes over next. Rodney Harrison, though, definitely has a say. And Holley is one of his buddies. So nothing's going to come of somebody basically not using building maintenance and breaking all the rules, which years ago got people indicted for doing what you saw, that he's basically customizing a whole building, you know, a whole office for himself. Also, on the previous show, we had mentioned the party with Victoria Perry. Victoria Perry was then told, don't worry about it, right? Don't worry about it. You just lay low and you'll be able to retire with 3/4. So the NYPD loves to cover for people. And of course, Hansi LePetri still goes in his office, still just stays there all day, doesn't come out. This is what goes on every day in the NYPD. So Harrison's making his move. The soccer mom appears to whatever power she has. They're fighting behind the scenes, and Harrison's making his move. And you know that the mayor does not like the soccer mom. So, you know, there's going to be things that arise out of all of this. So the best I could tell you is that Holley's entire way of doing things on what he's doing it's because he knows someone. He knows Harrison. Harrison's his backer. So that's the best. That's what I could get out of what transpired there at PSA 6.
And with Holley, I mean, he represents the quintessential. He never did the job that he's supervising, right? Because he worked in transit, Brooklyn South, various other precincts. And now all of a sudden, lo and behold, he's in charge of the detective bureau. So he's doing a job that he's wholly unqualified for. The people in the locker room clearly don't like him. And now it looks like he's going to be ascending even further up the food chain, undeservingly so, which is going to upset even more people. And this is someone, I mean, we talk about it all the time with Eric Sanders, but this is someone who's been with the department going on 27 years now. So you almost wonder, has he reached his expiration date yet? But clearly the answer is no. And it looks like he's in line to get an even better position, sadly.
Yeah. Also, I don't know, like he's definitely he's like a rising star under these people. But he's a polarizing figure because the detectives who he's going to be, overseeing, they don't like him, but he's also not going to allow some of the shenanigans that detectives do. So that's one of the reasons why they don't like him personally. But the thing with the office is outrageous behavior. So it comes twofold, you know what I mean? But it's not completely as bad as it looks. Now,
meanwhile, officers within their first 1 to 3 years on the job can't even get a slight pay raise, and you have an assistant chief making $275,000 a year who gets a new office. That's a terrible look, optically speaking.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with how he got there. Also, I noticed that there's a Chief Obi got an article in AMNY. She's a 3-star chief. She's a lawyer. She's a rising star. She's in traffic, which is where my last place where I was working. I was working at traffic before what happened to me happened. She has an whole article in AMNY, with her career, and that's fine and dandy because she is very qualified for her position. But the problem is, you're right. She is a lawyer. But how does she get to that being a lawyer? When she was at the police academy, why was Jeffrey Madry there having his own room and doing God knows what? You're telling me Chief Obi didn't hear or know of anything that was going on with Jeffrey Madry? Because remember, they both became lawyers together. She could say, I don't know anything, but it looks awfully suspicious that you had this guy in the police academy when they call it a boom boom room. And this guy was studying to be a lawyer, and you also was studying to be a lawyer, and you control the police academy, and then all this mishigash comes out later. So it's nice. She has a nice article. And listen, she is super qualified for whatever position it is she gets, but she's never faced the scrutiny of what exactly went on with Jeffrey Madry in the police academy. You were studying either with him or you knew about it because you gave him this room or you inherited that he knew about this room. What happened there? Because that is what I'm trying to get to the bottom. I'm not saying that she's not qualified, but she's definitely super qualified for things. But the whole Jeffrey Madry scandal is looming over her head. Also, the Sal Greco Show was actually featured in the New York Post over the weekend. There was, of course, our own reporting about a lieutenant that's now a sergeant, that he was a creep. And shout out to Tina Moore, who actually referenced the Sal Greco Show as being the ones that exclusively reported on the issue first. So that, of course, Tina started digging in on them. And, of course, the NYPD plays all kinds of games, DCPI. And now we're getting to the bottom of what happened there. Why is DCPI? They never seem to want to answer anything. It's just cover and duck and cover. And so I want to give a shout out to the New York Post for actually giving the show credit. There it is. The allegations focus on the time he was a sergeant in 90th Precinct, according to the source with knowledge of the internal probe. The forbidden relationship was first noted by @Sal Greco on Twitter. So thank you, Tina Moore, for acknowledging that we do a lot of hard work here. It's a little operation. I mean, you notice YouTube is playing games with us today, but we present evidence and facts. And too bad for the joke hoppers, but we tend to be wrong. So
yeah, it's nice to see a high integrity individual like Tina too, given that everyone from the Post and Daily News has been stealing our scoops for months now and not giving us any credit for it. Listen, we're not asking for people to say, oh, this is their scoop, they own it, they're the first ones who reported it, and now we're not allowed to talk about it. No, that's not what we're saying. Just give us credit. That's all. Don't steal someone else's information and act like you were the one who came up with it, because we know damn well that you aren't. And this is true for a lot of different stories that we've covered in the past, whether it be this or Kaz Daughtry and John Shell hanging out with President Trump on the golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey, or various other things that we've had scoops ahead of everyone else. Just give us credit for it. We're not going to hold it against you.
We're just trying to get, a cold piece of the sidewalk here. We're not looking at I'm not going to say where's my crumbs, but it's nice to get acknowledged from a big organization, because you're beating people to the punch. It's like sometimes it's nice to give a nod to those who they're newer to the muckraker style, but they are a fellow muckraker. And sometimes teamwork makes the dream work, right? But we want to get into something else, because there's a whole thing that happened in the last couple of days. Jack, what's the hell's going on with those Epstein files? I see it all over the place.
Yeah, so finally the Epstein files were kind of released, right? They were redacted and then they were released, and then Thomas Massie ended up signing an act that allowed them to all be released. But I mean, it's kind of still been balking back and forth, because the administration releases the files, then they say, are you guys happy now? And some congressmen are saying, no, we're not happy, because you're not doing any investigations into the individuals who are named or the crimes that they allegedly committed. And this was a really interesting interview that Massie did on ABC on Saturday night, where he talked about how the DOJ was managing the release of the files.
And finally, I know the DOJ wants to say they're done with this document production. The problem is they've taken down documents before we were able to go over to the DOJ and look at the unredacted versions. They took down some of the most significant documents, two of them involving Virginia Giuffre's case and other things. The picture of Epstein in a room where it's got CIA written on the boxes, that's been taken down. We want to be able to look at all these files. They can't keep those documents down after they've already produced them. And finally,
so Sal, imagine if I missed a baseball game one night and I said to you, can you tell me what happens? And you show me two highlights, and you don't have the box score, and you don't have the final out, and you don't have the go-ahead home run. And I'm asking you, wait a second, Sal, what happened in this baseball game? All I see is the final score in one clip. I'm really confused and unaware and shocked. That, in a nutshell, is exactly what's going on with the Epstein files. We get the files released. We get all the names, which I'll put up momentarily, but we don't really get a lot of information. And then when you get the most key details, you see a file where the face is covered, or there's a name that's redacted, or that you only get half of the email, which is supposed to be released. So this is very vanilla, the file release. This is not what we were promised when President Trump was reelected. He said the files were going to be released in their entirety, and we were going to get full transparency. This is far from that, and this is going to be a huge stain on Republicans' resumes.
Not only is there that part, the files, I can't believe they put it out and then took it away. Obviously, on the previous show, we had showed you Pam Bondi, what she said, right? Remember what she said when she went to Congress the other day, basically making light and trying to troll people. That's not how you do things. And now you see, we're going to release the files, and then you don't release them. You just take them away. It's just, I don't know. Listen, I don't know who's telling who to do what. If the fear is of the president I don't think the president is in the files where you say there's some there. There's nothing there involving criminal activity or anything with the president. But there is a lot to dirty up other people that are clearly in this orbit of whether it's Trump or Democrats or whatever it is. And I think that's what is becoming a problem. Now, the other problem here is there's another unscrupulous figure that all kinds of stuff have come out on. Many in Trump world have made excuses for this guy, that he's the brainchild, and all kinds of mishigas with this. But I don't believe in the conspiracies. I actually go for the facts. Who am I talking about, Jack?
You are talking about Stinky Steve Bannon. And look at all these weird, creepy texts that were released between him and Jeffrey Epstein. This is just one of them. We'll show you a couple of them. This is just one exchange. Schiff trying to find knowledgeable financial people. It's intriguing, as I guess they can't use the best guys at IRS or Treasury. Well, this is a weird use of language by Epstein. You can tell he wasn't an English major in college. The best. Wow. Hell of year. Next will be biblical. I don't know what he's saying there. Steve Bannon in response, we either own 2019 or it will surely own us. I'm back in the F&B biz only. F&B director. No, it does not stand for fucking blow. Okay, so they were allegedly going back and forth about women, and then they changed topic of conversation to something else, and now it's back to the women. I'm still kind of confused. Spoke to my Dems this weekend. Boy, are emotions running high. So this is about the time when Joe Biden started to show cracks in his mental acuity too. So Epstein was kind of telling Bannon, there's issues in Washington right now with President Biden, and Democrats are starting to
but hold on, this is from 2019, so Trump is president and Biden.
Yes, I stand corrected on that. Yeah, so this is 2019, but the Democratic Party was still not in a great spot at this point in time.
Do you see we're going to blow him
up right out of the box? White House has zero plan to punch back. Fort Apache with no cavalry en route and no soldiers in the fort. He is really borderline. Not sure what he may do. I think it's beyond borderline 25th. So they're actually talking about Trump here and his unpredictability.
And he's pushing for 25th Amendment. You see that? He wants the 25th Amendment. That's what he's saying there. If you could read that, he wants the 25th. That's Steve Bannon that is calling for the 25th Amendment. That's Mr. MAGA, War Room, and people cannot, they still are trying to defend this guy, which is just like Joe Kopp trying to defend a DWI sergeant, a sergeant that shot at a raccoon. You know, it's the same concept. He wrote that. It's not somebody playing, role playing as Steve Bannon. It's Steve Bannon talking to Jeffrey Epstein about the 25th Amendment with Trump, which remember at that time, many people were talking about. So you have a traitor amongst you, yet they're doubling down saying this guy is, MAGA, Trump. No, he's not. And he might even have Trump fooled.
Yeah, to be transparent about what that text message correspondence is showing too. It's showing that Bannon has a lot more control over Washington than people realize, because he's talking about invoking the 25th Amendment, which gives power of authority to remove the president from office and also to replace his vice president. So he's actively looking to shake up Washington there with Epstein. And I mean, Epstein, it's again odd because Epstein had very little involvement with anything politically speaking. He obviously knew all of these people within a lot of high-powered circuits, but he knew a lot about money. But you shouldn't have a financer essentially pulling the strings in the country, and it seems like he clearly was. Anyway, this is another text message exchange between.
It's crazy. Look at these people. Need to focus, Jack. People need to focus on what's being said here. What you're about to show. People need to stop making excuses for bad behavior. Bad behavior, right? Joel Ramirez says here, the situation shaping up to be even more serious than Watergate. It seems that the only person likely to face arrest will be Attorney General, much like Nixon during his scandal. There's a lot here. Look, this thing too, there's a whole issue with Minnesota with all the ICE raids, and ICE has got to pull out of there because it's not really ICE. It's two agencies in one. But this part here with Steve Bannon, show us what he's saying, because I just, this guy is just, why is no one, he won't answer any questions, by the way, just so people know. Steve Bannon won't answer this.
So this is really crazy, right? Because Epstein points out Trump's financials are a LOL. No liabilities need to be disclosed if they are in the biz or payable to a family member. There's the scam. Funny. Do you have for a coffee or meal with our girl? Would love to either. She is in town. So this is a very weird pivot too. If we're doing the play-by-play color analysis breakdown of this here, because on one hand, they're talking about finances and about how Trump is poorly managing both his business finances, also his personal finances. And then the conversation quickly pivots to being about a girl who it looks like Epstein is bringing to Steve Bannon or facilitating an introduction to them. So yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyway, let's move on. Bannon said, would love to either. She is in town. No question mark either. So he seems to be operating with the belief that the girl he's looking for is in town. Yes, she's agreed. Not only do I do F&B, but now a matchmaker. It's like Bogart and Hepburn on the African Queen. So why is this next text message redacted?
Yeah.
Because you have the name redacted. You have all of the text message correspondence between the two. We have all of the evidence, yet it seems like certain messages are excluded for some reason. I don't understand why. There was speculation that the names are redacted to protect the identity of the victims. I think in some cases that's probably true, but definitely not in this one, because they're going back and forth. And also, if it is a victim's name, you could say victim's name, so we're not suspicious about what's being said. There's just a lot of unanswered questions.
What's his response to this, Bannon? Because this has to keep going. Is there anything else?
No, it does keep going. Bannon says she is way too classy for me. Plus, it would end her professionally. So what he's saying is that he's not getting romantically involved with a certain woman because he thinks it would be detrimental to her for some reason. I don't understand why. Maybe he was scared about a criminal conviction at this point. Maybe he didn't want it to ruin her reputation. I don't know. Anyway, it continues. The financial statement rules extended in Trump and will keep the whole family safe from jail. Very, very clever. It will have to wait for our face-to-face. Trump had a fundraiser next door to my house on 71 yesterday. So this is indicating that Trump and Jeffrey Epstein still were in contact in 2019, and that Trump, although they weren't in cahoots on a personal level, Trump still very much so trusted Epstein with his money, and a lot of other people were trusting Epstein with his money during this time too. So Epstein was great with money, and that's why people liked him.
And Bannon asked him too, did you drop by?
I told them to ask if he wanted to come in for a massage. Trump's I don't want war, typical head fake. You heard wrong on this one. You are not getting
wrong on this one. So he's saying that he's wrong, that Trump wanted to. What the hell's going on? You are not getting out of paying your dollar. Forget it. I just went through my reasoning with someone in the know, and they said, oi, I didn't say out of trouble, just out of jail.
And that's the last message too, I should note, that at least with what we're being given here. So this is the last message where Epstein is essentially telling Bannon, like, look, what the Trump organization and what the Trump family is doing is illegal financially. I'm helping them hide their money and do all their business proceedings in a somewhat legal manner, but you should proceed with caution and be careful. So, yeah, I mean, Trump and Epstein may have not been really aligned with one another personally, but they still were in connection with one another, regardless of what he may wants to say publicly.
I'm going to say that this guy Bannon, to me, it still reads as Epstein is hopeful to land in Trump world. He probably knew about his pending indictment. So what he wants to do here is he thinks Bannon is the way in to that, while Bannon's going to rework his image and whatever else seems to be going on in between them. From what I could read there, this is what I would be thinking. Now, there's more, because at the same time, if you remember, Bannon, his we'll call it sugar daddy, as Roger likes to put, Miles, was being investigated himself along with Steve Bannon for Build the Wall and other various scams that they're involved in, right? And then right here, we have Roger posting, Bannon's Chinese sugar daddy wouldn't answer when asked if his money was from communist China. Or what's going on here is the influence peddling of conservative influencers, conservative podcasters, conservative in general, anyone conservative in the Trump world that you see a lot of these names. I'm not going to say them. You know who they are. They're affiliated to Bannon. And what's been alleged over and over again is that it was Miles Guo money that helped fund their little operation, all the messaging, all the, talking points over and over again. And it's tied back to Bannon and tied back to Miles Guo, who at the same time was talking to Jeffrey Epstein. And you just saw just a little bit of what the disgusting stuff they were talking about. And, and who are the people that have been there? Oh, Boris Epstein comes to mind too. We're going to get to him in a second. Boris Epstein's another guy who's basically telling Trump what to do legally, which is insane. And he came through prominently through MAGA, through this guy's show, which came from Miles Guo money. At the same time, I don't know if he got any money from Epstein. This is what I'm trying to say. You still don't know the unknown that's involved with this guy and Epstein, but clearly he did not have Trump's best interest. He's double dipping. He's got two faces. And then they're talking about women. And, obviously this guy's he's trafficking women his whole life, Epstein. So why are people just sitting there saying Steve Bannon, nothing to talk about? This guy was the closest person to Epstein before he perished. That is a fact. That's in its own text messages, all the paperwork. So why are conservatives not going after this? There's one prominent, Jack, that says the Epstein Files, we want transparency, yet he works for Steve Bannon. He never mentions that. He's the biggest name in there. He has the most message. He has more messages in there than people like Bill Gates. There's more messages with
and Bill Clinton and Jeff Bezos and all these other prominent people that were
clearly there's more with Bannon than there is with any of the other people. Whether it be Clinton, with Clinton and those people, you're talking about the past. With everything that was more recent, there's a lot going on between Bannon and Epstein. So why is there silence from those that claim to be conservative or MAGA? Why is there silence?
Well, there's some degree of uni-party collaboration here because there's incentive to keep the Epstein files under wraps, since Epstein played a pretty big role in all of the business proceedings in our country because he was hiding all of the money for these rich and famous billionaires who were trusting him. And then he was also kind of allowing them to live a luxurious lifestyle on his islands and various other vacation destinations. So he was an elite and he was doing a lot of illegal things. And the people who were connected to him were also engaging in illegal activity. And there's people guilty on both sides of the aisle, both from the left and the right, in regards to Jeffrey Epstein. The real question is Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein, are they like spies for Israel? I'm not using Israel as the only possible country that they're spying for, but perhaps another country. China, are they involved internationally with another country? And did they have some sort of incentive to try and engage in all the behavior that they engaged in? Did they want to dig up dirt on Bill Clinton and Trump and all these other people so they could hold it over their head and blackmail them? Because they clearly had a lot of pull within the political and financial ecosystem in this country. And they were relatively unknown individuals, especially Epstein, until the Epstein Files came out. We didn't really know who Epstein was until recently. And then we saw all these photos of him with all of these famous people. And we're like, oh, this guy was important. decades after he was making key decisions for this country. So there's really a lot that we don't know about Epstein. And until we learn more about him as an individual, there's going to be a lot of question marks regarding the files. It's just the way it is.
And that's what I'm saying. That people need to really wrap their head around this. And you got to break out of the bubble and read into this. This guy Bannon, I've been telling people for years. I knew about this involvement with Epstein. It was just everything was being hush hush. People saw him up there in Manhattan near Epstein's residence. You know, it's just people. You're afraid to say anything because you don't know what's going to happen to you, right? So that's why people didn't want to. You know, they were afraid to come out. Now, you know, you realize that you're allowed to. People should not be afraid and come out and talk. You know, I mean, right here, Deputy Dre, he just gave you the link to this. Hopefully, people could see through these files. You should be able to read about Bannon, who right here. What is this, Jack? I'm seeing this with Boris Epstein. What exactly occurred here? Because this is another thing that I believe I touched up on, and people, but then who's always right, Jack? I hate to toot my own horn.
Yeah, so pretty much Bannon was connected to various crypto companies that also had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And it speaks to another reason why people are not speaking up more about the Epstein files. There's business deals that are at stake here, which could get totally derailed if the individuals involved in the Epstein files are revealed. Just look at the immediate aftermath and the subsequent consequences that various parties have had to face. Steve Tisch, the owner of the Giants, is potentially going to be facing an investigation with the NFL. The NFL also had to release a statement about it. Various other people in academia had to step down from their positions because they were named in the Epstein files. If Steve Bannon ends up getting implicated and charged, then he's not going to be able to do business with all of these crypto companies, and all of the countries where they're now located. So it's going to be pretty bad, circumstantially speaking. And that's why everyone is covering up everything in the Epstein files, is because they have some sort of underlying incentive to do so. If the people involved in the Epstein files were average, everyday Joes who were running construction companies or accountants or lawyers, and they didn't have any big-time clients, it would be no issue at all releasing their names. But problematically so, these are some of the most powerful people in society and people who are conducting deals for business proceedings which are going to take place in the future, not just things that happened in the past. So that's another angle and lens involved, and that's why Bannon and his crypto relationship are not being revealed in its entirety either.
Well, it's funny you could throw that back up, because this cryptocurrency thing, this was a coin that was FJB or something called like that. It was some kind of crypto. Listen, crypto in my eyes is a scam. Okay, it's people have been schemed out of money left and right, and it's not even real money. It's some kind of digital thing. It's just like me writing an email and saying it's $8, and you guys fall for it. All right. This lawsuit, this is from Reuters. The lawsuit in Washington, D.C. federal court named Bannon and Boris Epstein, both longtime allies of U.S. President Trump. I don't know about that. Along with Bannon's War Room Media Company, Let's Go Brandon Coin LLC, and Patriot Pay LLC, among other defendants. And what this says is there was a coin that they were all jumping on. And I told you about this Boris Epstein guy. How far back can we go? Now, you heard from me way back when November of 2024, when you first started hearing about this Eric Adams seek to go try to find a way to get out of his criminal charges. So he started to seek people in Trump world. And you started hearing about eventually what happened. The Emo Boves, the Todd Blanches, and of course, the guy who's connected to them all, Boris Epstein, who at that time was doing what? Well, he got caught up in that. Apparently, he was selling people's access to even have an interview with Trump about cabinet positions. That was what he was being investigated with. Now, to show you how powerful Boris Epstein is the reason Todd Blanche and Emo Bo even got to the DOJ. He was also the head of Trump's legal advisory team. So people that were lawyers only got through Boris Epstein. Okay, so Boris Epstein somehow, I don't know if this guy knows of the deepest, darkest secrets. He should have been canned a long time ago. This guy in 2021 was arrested for once again involved with some female, some kind of thing where I think he groped her. It was all on body camera. You could look at that, the whole incident. He's also charged in Arizona in the electors issue. He was one of the main people that was there. He was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Georgia case that ends up now, being defunct. But he was another guy. He was all over these things, this guy. But yet he's never tried a case in court. So remember that he's never won a case. How he's given legal advice over a Joe Tacopina or a David Schoen, or people that have won major cases, have been in front of the Supreme Court. Boris Epstein's telling them what to do. Trump doesn't really know how to pick them, apparently. But this guy, Boris Epstein, was, from my own sources, he's the guy that ends up with Eric Adams, and then he ends up with all of this, how he got to this deal with what happened with Trump. You had Emo Bove, you had Todd Blanche, you have the Artie Idala, who's the lawyer to Ghislaine Maxwell at one point and was the lawyer for Steve Bannon. So, and he's good friends with Frank Carone and Eric Adams. So, and Steve Witkoff enters the fray because that's how Trump got the casino thing with Bally's in the Bronx. He's on that paperwork as a lobbyist. And of course, you have that happened. 175 million goes to the Trumps, and Eric Adams had to veto it. And then what happens? His case goes bye-bye. And he gets indicted and goes to jail forever for what he was doing. Yet it stems back to what I said, and I caught flank. And now all this time later, Boris Epstein's the real guy running everything. Congratulations. You must have watched my show, or you want to ignore that I exist. But I told you so way back when this happened. And those sources are really tight, and they're not who people think it is. I have many different ways of finding out things, and they're not the channels that people think. And with this one, Boris Epstein, once again, came to prominence through Steve Bannon. So it's funny that now he's caught up in this crypto thing because he's made money doing a lot of different things, but that deposition would be priceless. That deposition would be priceless with Boris Epstein.
And you talk about the interconnection between all of these parties. The one that I think you forgot to mention or excluded is Brock Pierce and Eric Adams. Yep. Boris Epstein also helped facilitate that connection. And then Eric Adams obviously used that to launch his crypto coin the minute he was out of City Hall. Part of the problem with crypto is you have all these rich and famous people getting intimately involved with operations, but they don't really know where the money's coming from. They're going out, they're getting a lot of investors. People are investing a lot of money, in some cases 5, 6, 7 figures into their operation, but there's usually a rug pull afterwards because they don't really know what they're doing, and all the investors wind up getting scammed out of millions of dollars. That's kind of the problem with what I would describe as the cryptocurrency Ponzi scheme, because really it is a Ponzi scheme.
It is. Listen, I know a lot of people, this crypto thing, in my opinion, it's a scam. It's a scam. You don't have a real value. All you're saying is, I made up some file on a computer and it's worth millions of dollars somehow. And you're like, what is that? Nothing like having physical money, physical gold, physical silver. You're talking about some piece of air, basically. You're telling me this piece of air is worth money. And then there's people looking to go online and scheming, and then they break into your file. They're saying they can't, but they have. The whole thing, to me, sounds bizarre. The crypto thing, there's no false safe. There's barely any laws on the books for this. So it's just running wild. And then you have these unscrupulous characters coming out of the woodwork, getting their hands on it. Eric Adams was one. Boris Epstein's another. Steve Bannon was another. Trump himself. Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump. They're all involved in this crypto.
Eric Trump's out in Dallas mining Bitcoin. I mean,
yeah.
and no one really knows what the currency does or what it could be used for. I mean, they floated the possibility that it's used for transactional purposes, but no one really knows if that's ever going to be possible or if it even can translate into US dollars right now. So it's pretty much like a surface level investment that people have become overly enamored with.
Yeah. I'm like, this is just
RFK Jr. too. I mean, as recently as 2024, he said most of his wealth came from Bitcoin. Then do you really have money or do you have nothing at all? Jeffrey Epstein was the one who always said that a lot of money floating around the stock market is kind of fake because if you went to withdraw all of it at once, it wouldn't be readily available, which is why he was so good at hiding money at this bank in Switzerland and this bank in another country and not having to pay taxes on these investments. But for the purpose of talking about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, there's so much that we don't know about either of those currencies that I couldn't possibly justify an investment, even if my favorite person was behind the operation.
Yeah, that's my whole thing. And I find this crazy. The big things coming out of this weekend, which I hope, people had a good weekend, was first the stuff with the police department I had, and then there was a whole thing with the Epstein Files, which is a continuation from the other day. And then the Bannon stuff, which is every day is a new revelation. And then this Bitcoin scam that they're involved in, this crypto nonsense that, and trust me, who's next to get sued for this? Eric Adams will be. Trust me, that one's coming. That little Bitcoin thing he pulled, that's another thing that's going to come up. Because these people are getting schemed out of money. It's like a Ponzi scheme, like you said. And then there's no, what is your repercussions if you're robbed of this crypto? What are you going to do? And the stock is what? Garbage is what?
Look, you stole the thoughts right out of my brain. Over the past 6 months, Bitcoin has lost 42% of its value. Otherwise, $50,000, $49,653. So that's a lot of money. And you're asking people who are very unfamiliar with the quality of this investment to spend a lot on it. And look at where things were back in August. You had one share of Bitcoin worth $117,500, and now it's all the way down to 67. Yet Eric Trump is at the Bitcoin mining facility talking about Bitcoin as if it's the newest great thing since sliced bread. So, I mean, while it might be this cool, shiny technological toy, no one can really explain what it is or what it does or how to understand its long-term investment prospects. And then B, I mean, it faces a very uncertain future because there's going to end up being a lot of legal ramifications for Bitcoin and all of these other alternative currencies when it's all said and done. So I think this is something that you should either operate with extreme buyers beware with, or just stay away from it entirely if you don't really understand it.
The Minority Patriot says this: crypto has made people rich, but it drew in people with no experience getting caught up in hype and getting burned. That's the best way to describe what's going on with this. And this latest thing, which I also had a report on before with Bannon and Epstein with this crypto stuff, that's the latest. But it seems to be always, Jack, it's the same names in the same circle doing all kinds of shady stuff. That seems to be the common denominator. And you know why? What have I been arguing about since day one when I first started doing this show and speaking out and being an advocate on all these things? No one's ever held accountable. If you don't hold people accountable, that means you, Joe Cop, too. You don't hold people accountable. This is the kind of stuff that occurs. This incident, the crypto stuff, it's easy. Just grab your friend and go, what are you doing? What is it? It's real. It just, all it takes is something like that instead of, yeah, bro, can't do that, bro. bro. That's Joe Cop to you. Like that, and I'm not picking on the Joe Cop, but just saying that's the person that'll let it flow. Like, oh, there's no accountability. He's my friend. I can't do it. What? Let him scheme people out of money with crypto. And now look, no accountability, Jack. Been the number one mantra of everything.
If you're rich and famous in this world, you can operate in a stratosphere that's on a pedestal above everyone else. That's what we've learned from the Epstein Files. Maybe these things have been transpiring for years now, but now we know definitively that the elite social class is pretty much doing whatever they want. But the most interesting development here has been Republicans who are generally very partisan affiliated and aligned with their own party, and they think in cahoots with one another and they act in cohesion. That hasn't been the case this time around. We've seen Nancy Mace and Thomas Massey in particular leading the charge on the ground floor, with honorable mention going to Lauren Boebert as well from Colorado, but also Marjorie Taylor Greene, who recently retired from Congress. She's really spoken out over the past month, and this is what she had to say about some of the details being redacted from the Epstein files.
I mean, people are losing their minds, rightfully so, over what has come out. And the most outrageous part, Jillian, is that the people in charge are not taking it seriously and are not investigating it. And it seems that no one will be held accountable. And that's the point where it's breaking Americans, is how can we read these things with our own eyes and read them on an FBI form, but yet the FBI and the Department of Justice and the administration and even the president himself is unwilling to take it serious. And so I think it's a really rough time for a lot of people.
I hope one thing, Jack, that she means also holding people like her friend that she used to go on that guy's show, Steve Bannon, accountable for what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. That's all I'm saying. I heard she said something about it, but that guy is all over the file. What about him?
No, he needs to be held accountable first and foremost. But I think the main takeaway from that video and MTG's comments is that the party is being divided right now. On one side of the aisle, you have Republicans who are siding with President Trump and are fierce loyalists to him, and they're not going to go against him no matter what he decides to do. Then on the other side of the aisle, you have politicians who are looking right now to save face amongst constituents who are mad about how the Epstein file release have been handled, and they're going to do everything in their power to try and get the files released, because guess what? If they don't do that, they're not going to be able to go back to their district and win an election come 2026 in November. So they need to serve their constituents, and they need to advocate for the better moral reasoning here as opposed to siding with President Trump, because then they're going to have their own head cut off. If they side with President Trump and their constituents wind up getting angry, everyone's going to start to turn on them. And this is where the Republican Party is at odds, because they're probably going to be losing the midterms in 2026. And assuming the House flips, are Democrats able to parlay that into the presidency in 2028? Because every average Joe Schmo on the street doesn't want to vote Republican with how poorly the party has managed both the Epstein files and deportations in various cities as well. I'm bound to say the answer to that question is a resounding yes.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Look, people know I've always voted Republican. I'm a registered Republican that is super critical of them. But I listen to the other side, and I'm more moderate and more libertarian than anything else these days, because these people are just there's something wrong with these people politically. But, again, if somebody came around and not only just walk the walk, they got to walk the walk, not just talk it, I'd probably vote for them. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to vote whoever, because some of these Democrats are insane, because instead of trying to run on just trying to hold people accountable, they're going back to the old "we hate Trump" playbook. We've seen this before. You do have things to go after Trump if you're going to run again, but he's not even going to be there anymore. So you have things to run on. There's issues to run on, and people get upset about it. But it's more of this: they both like to play games, so that you both fight each other. You fight, and that's all they do. You remain powerful by keeping everyone divided. You don't remain powerful if everyone's united, because then everyone's united could say, that guy's no good, this girl's no good, and then you're out of power. So that's the name of the game with these people. As long as you think left versus right is, and that's the problem. And I'm saying they should be united, right? United, you stand. Separated, you're going to fall. And it's very unfortunate. But I think this issue has galvanized a lot of people, whether it be Republican or Democrat, on nobody wants, a criminal, some criminal human trafficker that may or may not have done things with children. Nobody wants that kind of person not in prison, not being held accountable. but apparently, there might be a little network out there of people that were at one point affiliated with this one individual who have gotten away with a lot. And then there's also accomplices, and then the old Joe Coppers and people that just, yeah, bro, back the blue, bro. We got to back each, bro. I don't know, bro. And so you have no problem with the people committing crimes as long as nobody's looking at you and you swear to some omerta that doesn't exist. So that seems to be the problem. Is again, there's no accountability. It's the transparency, like the show is named. Will government ever prioritize transparency?
I think we've answered that question, and the answer here is unfortunately no. The Minority Patriot says it'll be interesting to see how Republicans act during this election cycle.
Yeah.
Those who are bucking at Trump over Epstein Files, etc., versus candidates Trump endorses. This is where people have to kind of tiptoe along the fine line because people are taking a hard stance one way or the other. I would say in totality, more people on both sides of the aisle want the Epstein Files released than those who don't want it released. I would probably say it's probably about a 75-25% split if I had to estimate a number. The 25% minority, though, amongst them, 90% of them are probably Trump supporters, and they're just listening to whatever Trump says. And listen, Trump wasn't at the hearing. He wasn't talking, but he clearly backed Pam Bondi. She was clearly acting at his direction. And as such, you have to be upset with President Trump because he's the man at the top of the food chain. And if he's not directing his attorney general in the right direction, then he's the one who has to be blamed, right? So I think what you're going to start to see, especially if the House flips, is more Republicans are going to start to worry about saving face for themselves and their own constituents and less about developing a relationship with Trump. Because let's be honest with ourselves, Sal. A lot of politicians or political candidates cuddle up to the president because they think it's going to help them amongst their own constituents. Like having a good relationship with Trump, getting the coveted Trump endorsement is going to force people to go vote for them. But if that's not the case, they're going to kind of waver in their loyalty a little bit. And that's where it's going to get really interesting.
Yeah, this is just bizarre. This whole Epstein thing. What I just, Bannon, it's very debilitating to see that they, giving someone a pass just because, oh, I really like that guy. Sometimes people that you built into some false prophet end up being what they are, just a false prophet. They're not who they say they are. You just got to look in the mirror and say, what's right from wrong? That was my job every day for 14 years. What's right from wrong, right? Is Steve Bannon not being held accountable? Is that right or wrong? It is a lot more. Trust me, there's going to be more. Every show I'll probably have more messages that we didn't have. There's like 2,000 messages so far that they counted. And there's more that now they took down, but they're there. So just remember that when we talk about this guy.
Yeah, the saddest part is we've now gone through 2 presidential administrations where we're continuing to argue about when the files released, if they're going to be released in its entirety, and if we're going to be releasing them at all. When we were promised that they were going to be released twice. And while this is going on, the cost of living is continuing to go up. Inflation is at an all-time high. The financial ecosystem is not doing well. So it's like we're constantly arguing over the Epstein files while things that are probably more pertinent to our lives are also taking place in conjunction with the Epstein file release. Yet the government is so incompetent and unable to get it right that we've actually diverted all of our attention to focusing on the Epstein file release now.
Yeah, it's just a shame.
It's like we're running around a hamster wheel.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed with things, but I wanted to now pivot. I mean, this is as close to a conspiratorial show as I'm going to ever get. But I'm doing it based on evidence and facts. So, and I was correct originally with what was going on. This guy, Boris Epstein's name always comes up in many different Trump avenues. And again, now he's in trouble again with Steve Bannon. Isn't that funny? It's always Steve Bannon, too.
As Minority Patriot points out, but none of that matters as long as the Dow is over 50,000.
Yeah, none of it matters.
Bondi is like a free throw jinxer. When you're watching a basketball game and you get a statistic about how good of a free throw shooter someone is, and then they miss a free throw the very next shot. That's what's going on with Pam Bondi. The Dow Jones was at 50,000 last Monday, a week ago, but now it's down to 49,500. And as the value of the Dow Jones continues to decrease, we continue to remember that you still haven't been transparent about the Epstein Files. Thank you, Pam Bondi.
Yeah. Unbelievable. With that, I wanted to pivot into some good things, and there's sports, right? So, first off, this weekend, Friday night, well, actually, I want to start with soccer. Everybody knows I love soccer. Somebody that used to be on used to say that this is Inter Milan. They played Juventus. Here's Juve, which is a guy we just got. Then this passes Pielinski. Look at this. That is a 90th minute goal against the 10-man Juventus. There was a big red card that happened. They all got upset, but this was it, folks. Inter won 3-2. There they are in first place, 8 points ahead of AC Milan. Juventus is already 20, whatever. They're like a lifetime behind. They're not going to win anything this year. There was a huge controversy over this red card. A double yellow card is a red card. So Inter were up 11 guys to 10 the whole game. And watching this game, and it was entertaining, and Juventus resisted, and then Inter finally scored to go 2-1. And then Juventus, when they tied it, they actually committed a foul that nobody called. They knocked an Inter player down, and then they scored on the next. Literally, they passed the ball to the next guy, and he scored. So I think the ball is round, Jack, and in any game, sometimes you're going to win, sometimes I'm going to win. So after 70 years of watching Juventus always get red cards and penalty kicks that they clearly never got, now there's a VAR. There's all this. Now everyone's an outrage. It's a different game. It evolves. So you just roll with the punches. And in this instance, if you watch the game, Inter Milan is a better team. They're clearly a better team. So they always would deserve to win if they play well. But in this instance, that red card, but I don't see a problem with it. Inter deserved to win. Red card or not, they probably would have won. But it was nice to get the monkey off our back because I'm a huge Inter Milan fan. And now 8 points up on AC Milan. They got to play Champions League game this week. This might be Scudetto number 21. I'm starting to feel that it might happen, which would mean a whole new set of soccer jerseys with the Scudetto, which I love. So I don't know if you had your take on anything, but that was a big thing for having soccer over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm not a huge soccer connoisseur like you are. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I am, but it's amazing to see how big soccer is in Italy. It's almost like watching the NFL in America. Anytime a goal is scored, there's people cheering, shouting, throwing beer. And it's also become like a big event to go watch the games too. If you go throughout Italy, you could see people sitting outside, kind of huddling around the TV, watching the game. So, I mean, it's great to see how big the sport is overseas and how people in America are even now staying up at weird hours of the day to watch the games.
Oh, and say this too here. Minority Patriot says Buffon would have never let that in. You know, things are different when Juventus is sitting fifth in Serie A. I'll tell you this, and that's the league, by the way, Italian Serie A. Just like the La Liga in Spain and the English Premier League in England, and MLS here in America. The Italian national team is a disgrace, though, and they have many problems because they don't produce young talent, and you have to always, evolve, and you have to rotate players, and Italy doesn't have that. And a team that's had 4 World Cups, and they're in trouble not making a World Cup again. And this is a big one. This is in America. The last time it was in America, Italy was in the finals. We remember they had the finals at it was in Giant Stadium, Brazil, Italy, which was huge. So many Italians with Italian Americans there. So this is a pivotal point if Italy doesn't make the World Cup. But again, you saw some of the players. Pio Esposito scored for Inter. He's a big guy on the national team. Juventus has a few players. Cambiaso's one. They have a few other people. Locatelli. But there's no young guys coming up. We're the young players. I mean, I think the girls are better than the guys at this point in Italy. But yeah, it's a sad day when that happens. But thank God Italy. Thank God Inter Milan won. And so
when is America ever going to have a good FIFA World Cup team? It's like we always host the qualifiers. We've made it a big thing in this country. Little kids all over the country are now starting to play soccer at a young age to the point where it's almost become America's sport. When are we finally going to have a respectable team?
I just think Americans know that money is in baseball, then football, and of course, basketball is the big one. You can make a ton of money as an athlete in those sports, and they don't see soccer as a revenue generator for them, in particular. Like, look, you can make a lot of money, college football to football. You become an NFL player, you could be set for your life. The same thing in basketball. You play college ball, then you go to the pros.
You can make a pretty good living in college nowadays with the salary.
You could be the next Juan Soto. Nothing pays like baseball, So, hockey, I love hockey, but it's not a big sport in America per se, unlike Canada, or Russia or, Czechoslovakia. The sport that pays, football and basketball, baseball too. But those two sports, you get endorsement deals, you're set for life. Soccer doesn't have that, at least in this country. So you're seeing it slowly, but it's so slow. That's why America's just, I don't think they care. They don't really care about soccer. They'll play it, but they know that if they were a two-sport athlete, they'll go with the other sport, the one that pays better.
At one point, it looked like the MLS was destined for greatness and it was going to become popular. Remember when Landon Donovan signed with the LA Galaxy back in 2005? And it's like, oh, maybe more prominent players are going to come over to the MLS. You know how in Major League Baseball, you see Ohtani and all the guys from Japan starting to come over here. The Major League Baseball has kind of become like the main event when it comes to baseball leagues all around the world. People thought the same thing was going to happen to the MLS, but that never really materialized. It's been nice to see Donovan and various others scoring goals in American soccer uniforms. But at the end of the day, they clearly still play second fiddle to other overseas leagues, and it's a much lesser attraction here.
Yeah. So, yeah. Next thing I wanted to pivot to is Highlight, which started again. And I'm going to show you guys once again, this was my ring. I have a ring from this. See this? That's the ring of when the Lifestyle Miami Chargers won the league, which I've been a part of that team for a while. But we have another owner now who's a friend of mine too. We were all there. So Highlight, I went to Friday night in the Jam Arena. Okay. This is going to be the next game. Again, it's on YouTube, worldhighlightleague.com. You could also follow them everywhere. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. It's a very fun sport. But what happened on Friday night was the Jam Arena, which is the old Miami casino. It's been there forever. It's on 37th Avenue. That's the original Miami Highlight facility. It's over 100 years old. They did a lot to renovate this place. And I'm going to tell you, it sits thousands of people, unlike the other place. And you had about 200 to 300 people that were there on a whim. It's really not really been advertised yet that they're there. I mean, these were their results. Obviously, we lost. The Chargers lost. There was a good couple of games. Now, what had happened with by the way, the Cyclones are the reigning champions. So just so you know, and the Chargers were in last place last year. So we're reorganizing as a team. But after the game, we had Whitney Cummings was there as a comedian. She was hysterical. But Whitney Cummings was there, and the arena will now, if they can have events there, because it's a huge venue. You in a casino. You have the concessions and you walk in, there's more. You can eat in the casino. There's going to be a restaurant on the second floor if people do remember being there, but it's Highlight. This is the experience. And I think this could be the kickoff for the Highlight experience to once again. And they're on you could go on a Hard Rock app and you could bet on Highlight if you want. That's also, it's a free. So, but the venue itself, I'm going to tell you, Jack, I think maybe the Sal Greco Show needs to go there. For one,
absolutely,
make it into something. There's a VIP area. There's areas where the kids can play. There's food on both sides. There's drinks. Then you can wander into the casino if you want. I don't know if that's a good idea, but everything is there, and you could interact with the players. It's a lot better than where it was in Magic City. I think this has so much potential, but it's good. It's a shot in the arm for Miami and the residents in Miami and in Hialeah, So I just want to give that my little thoughts on it. I didn't really take much video there because it was the first time I was there. So we'll see what we can do in the future as far as the Sal Greco Show Highlight League and of course the Chargers and Highlight. Again, it was big on Miami Vice too. I mean, yeah, Eric Sanders says I saw Highlight on Miami Vice. It was huge in the 70s and 80s. It was. And
on Miami Vice, I haven't heard that.
It was on Miami Vice. In fact, the two players that were involved on that episode, I met them at Magic City. They came up to me. They were professional players, so it was very big here. Unfortunately, it was a betting scandal that happened way up in Connecticut that involved Whitey Bulger, and the rest is history. So, but it's made a comeback, and this is it. If this doesn't work, Highlight will be gone forever, probably in the country. So I think people should jump on that. World Highlight League, follow them also. Highlight League on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. Watch them, support them too, because this could be something that's good, not only for you, but for your kids. We have American kids come up and have all kinds of tournaments. The court is longer. It's a big court. So it's a regulation court. It's the original court in Miami. So it's just a lot there, but it was great. And Whitney Cummings was hysterical. I stayed for a little bit of that. So, yeah, Jam Arena, which you also follow Instagram and everything there and YouTube. And they have their own place you can follow them too, their own Instagram and TikTok. So that's it. Highlights back. Let's go Chargers. Hopefully they do better next time.
Highlight is probably the hottest new sport in America right now, next to curling. It's weird because whenever the Olympics happens, we suddenly learn about new sports that we didn't know anything about, and we become intrigued by them, maybe start to follow them a little more than we did previously. But Highlight is cool because it kind of is like a hybrid between handball, baseball, and a couple of other sports, right? You have all these guys throwing a ball with a little like club type thing that's curved, and they catch it, and the balls are actually going like 125, 150 miles an hour. So it's a lot harder to catch them than it looks. And it's really interesting strategically just to kind of watch it. As someone who grew up playing handball in the handball courts, I in particular really like it. And there could be a lot of room for growth potential, assuming that the sport is played in cities with a lot of other sports fans.
This is funny because Minority Pages says, oh, by the way, Jack and Sal, be at the Palm Beach Airport at 5:30 as we hop the jet to New York City tonight, as I have booked the DL tonight for my birthday party.
Yeah.
Infamous place where Michael Hansi LePetri, the NYPD Chief of Department, got a little out of hand. Yet we don't hear anything about that, right? You don't hear anything about that fraternization. Yet the soccer mom is in charge. She was also there, by the way, and there's video of it too. Don't worry.
Wow.
Don't worry. We're going to get to the bottom of all of that. And Fox says, I'm learning about new sports here at the Sal Greco Show. I grew up playing handball. Yeah, this is a good sport for you. And it takes away from hearing about the Epstein Files all day and getting really upset. Just play a little bit of highlight, go watch.
There's kind of a void right now sports-wise. I know that basketball is happening. We have March Madness coming up in the NBA. But as a huge baseball and football fan, there's nothing like in-season games happening from one of those two sports. And we go through this weird period in February for a couple weeks where there's neither. We need something to kind of put our attention on until baseball restarts again. Thankfully, though, spring training is beginning this upcoming weekend, and the Mets take on the Marlins, ironically enough, at Clover Park on Saturday afternoon. I will be in attendance at the spring training home opener. It's a very exciting season for the Mets because Francisco Lindor said yesterday, despite having surgery for the hamate bone in his right hand, which is going to require 4 to 5 weeks of recovery, he should be good for opening day. He said he felt that this year's team was better than last year's team, which makes a lot of sense because although you had Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, and Edwin Diaz, this year's squad is a lot more well-rounded. You have guys that hit for higher averages, are better in the field. You have a nice combination of young talent and complementary veterans. And you also have a different dynamic within the locker room. And a lot of people didn't really understand how that was hurting and bogging down last year's Mets team, where there was conflicts between a lot of the guys.
It is what it is. We'll see what the Mets do. I'm hoping for the best. I think they have a much better team than last year, even though people were kicking and screaming. Trust me, the Mets know what they're doing. Steve Cohen is a winner, and eventually, if he's not winning, he's going to go nuts and spend money like a drunken sailor. So let's go Mets. We'll see what happens there on the weekend. Who we have coming up on Thursday's show, Jack, because we have a special guest.
Oh, yeah. Thursday's show, we have a very special one for you. We will be having State Senator Stephen Chan, we gave you guys a little bit of a preview at the beginning of the show when we played the video of Stan chewing out Mamdani in Albany. He will be back with us, joining us on Thursday for a little Q&A. We're going to talk about Mamdani, the latest developments in New York City, have him react to the Epstein Files and everything that's taking place nationally, because he is a state senator in New York and he does handle a lot of national issues as they intersect with New York City politics. So it is going to be a very, very fun show. Be sure to tune in on YouTube X. We will have the YouTube stream back up by Thursday. Stephen Chan, state senator from Brooklyn, will be joining the Sal Greco Show, and it's going to be a very fun one.
Yeah, I got plenty of questions since he basically gave it to Mayor Mamdani, who did not have the right answers. So I love to hear more about all of that. But and he also represents Kings County, like I said, the 62nd precinct. That's your state senator. He knows all about what's going on there and in Bay Ridge and in 6-8. So it's going to be my honor to have Steve on, who I did want to win. You know, he won that seat last year in November, and he's a well-respected state senator and one of the few Republicans that are on the state Senate. So check that
from the 17th district of the state Senate in New York.
From the 17 districts. There you have it. So we'll be back on Thursday at 11:05. I hope everybody has a good rest of your President's Day, right? It's President's Day. That's Monday. And
we take today to appreciate the good presidents that we've had in American history. The timing is a little bit weird this time around, though, with the Epstein Files release, and then we have President's Day. But let's appreciate all the good presidents we've had in American history.
And like Eric says, again, slow and steady progress into the political arena. That's right. That's what Sal Greco Show is everywhere. We're trying to do everything. You know why? The more we bring to you, the more the show will grow. And we'll get this all resolved on the next time with YouTube. But if you don't, you could also listen to us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can listen to us on the Sal Greco Show. Look that up for anyone streaming on audio. Also, once again, if you're Italian-American, you want to join a real Italian-American Civil Rights League, you join the IACRL.org. We're going to be having events, all kinds of stuff down here. Once again, we're kicking off. Go to IACRL.org. There it is, the Florida chapter kickoff. You could join and then buy your ticket. It's going to be quite the show. There's going to be quite a lot of people there, including the one and only Roger Stone, who we're going to honor there. Also, Substack. Go to my Substack at the Sal Greco. I write articles. I just wrote one about prior show about my own lawsuit. You can check it out from my point of view. I don't get into too many specifics, but I definitely go into things that people should be paying attention to. So you could become a paid subscriber there, and you can watch my other show with Jason Goodman, which is getting a lot of buzz, if you know what I mean. And also, salgreco.com. Click the support button if you can. You help me out and the show, because it's you guys out there that I do this for. And basically, I'm trying to self-fund this whole thing because obviously we don't have, the big corporate sponsors that say, hey, we love hearing about the Epstein Files, But there it is, Sal Greco Show /support. If you want to contribute anything to help me out, help out the show. Also, remember, I'm fighting a whole system here between the NYPD, DCPI. I got to get my press pass because apparently, they don't like Sal Greco over there for whatever reason. So we're going to do all of that stuff. So, Jack, I don't know if you got anything else to say. Jack?
No, that just about does it. I think we've kind of covered all of the bases and touched home plate today between the NYPD scandal, everything going on with Safer Watch, the Epstein Files release, and of course, baseball getting started next weekend as well. The weather is finally nice in Florida for some baseball too. Maybe we should begin the regular season down here since it's starting March 26th, March 27th this year. Maybe we'll have that discussion on another show, though.
And unfortunately, if you're in New York, you got an inch of snow to shovel. Be careful out there. Hopefully have sanitation out there if they're not covering their license plates.
Hopefully Mamdani gets enough volunteers, too. Something he failed to do last time around. But
that guy failed a lot.
Optimistic.
We'll be discussing him on Thursday. So without any further ado, I hope everybody has a great rest of your President's Day. Have a great week. We'll be seeing you on Thursday at 11:05 a.m. And don't forget to follow us at the Sal Greco on Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, on X at the Sal Greco and on Instagram at the Sal Greco. Check out everything to do with the show, and also follow Jack, J_Stern97 on X and on Instagram. So with that being said, see you Thursday, 11:05. We're signing off from South Florida, which, as you know, is a sunny place for shady people.
What I'm asking New Yorkers for is to look back at all the things I've done as a deputy commissioner for operations, the assistant as assistant commissioner, and my time as a not only as a New Yorker but as a police officer. I get stuff done.
Listen, there was a book that came out that Jasmine Ray wrote, and in the Daily News today, it was stated that there was a sexual action that happened in Borough Hall. She reported in that book, and it wasn't. You're a dark, sick person, man. You know that? You're a dark, sick person. Your name was on the byline. And there's some of you that have been covering me. You guys could part. Let me do this. Y'all could depart. Y'all could depart. Some of you have been covering me for 3.5 years. Some of you are so sick and dark, and you're the leader of that. You're one of the most dark writers that I've ever seen in this city. And your personal sick vendetta and the sickness of how you think of over-sexualizing a black man, that in the book is stated that there was a sexual action in Borough Hall. That was never in the book. But that's typical of the sickness and the darkness of your sick mind. You're one of the sickest reporters I know. Go to the next question. You're a sick person.